back with a continuation of the tutorials with Carrara animation combined with Howler. In this one I have a quick animation that was created in Howler, and I want to composite it with that bicycle animation that I showed a little bit earlier. Or it could be the spinning astronaut maybe. Right, if I enable the preview I might actually see it. Here it is. Here's our spinning astronaut. If I set this to really small distance on the step, you can see him spin. Maybe I use the bicycle. There you go. So the idea really is to take this animation, but the animation shows an explosion, and I kind of want to show the opposite of that, reverse it. So one thing we have to do first is reverse it, and then we may want to also change the size. Right now, if I show it at 100% right here, you can see it's probably 640 by 480 or by 360. Let's go to image info. Yep, 640 by 360. All right, let's say I want this bigger. So I'm going to go to the image and resample. There it is, resample. And with that, you can perhaps make it twice as big. So 1280 by 720. Let's go render that. Okay, that, and it's applying it to the entire image sequence, not just this one current frame. You know, you have a whole animation, it's going to apply it to all frames of the animation. So that's one way to resample it, and then we can use it to start painting our animated bicycle, or perhaps our spinning astronaut, and have that go across the entire animation. So we first rescale it. There you go. Should be almost done. It's not showing the refresh all across if it takes too long to refresh, to update. We want to get this done, so it's focusing on actually doing the transformation, doing the resampling. Quite a bit of memory being used here, and hopefully we'll see this done. Okay, there it is. So now we have the animation bigger, and we want to now actually reverse it. So how do we do that? How do we reverse the frame sequence? Let me get rid of this marching ants thing. Clear alpha, there you go. So we have the animation, we need to reverse the frame sequence. You can do that in two places. One is you right click it and you can go to reverse frames. Or you can go simply to the animation and look for frames. There it is. That's the frames menu, right? The animation frames menu. This menu that you see here is the same as when you right click on the animation toolbar. And if you ever lose this toolbar, by the way, where you can scrub through the animation, if you ever lose this toolbar, let's say for instance if you accidentally click this to close the animation tool panel, you can bring it back simply here by animation controls. That will show you the animation toolbar, the animation controls, which this is. Alright, so we want to reverse the frame sequence. Let's do that. Reverse frames. Bingo. So now we have an animation that actually starts like this and everything flies into it rather than exploding out of it. So it's kind of a reverse Big Bang. And let's say we wanted to add a little Big Bang at the very end. After this explosion, it looks like a big explosion there, we want to actually have more frames and have another Big Bang there. So what we do is we select the first and the last frame. We set an in and an out marker where we want this from. So maybe from about here, let's go do that, in, and then go to the last frame, out. Now we have a group, or a block we call that, and it's highlighted in blue. There it is, just a few frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 frames there. In blue it's showing that. So if we go a little bit further, we can perhaps extend the in marker. There you go. So we have an in to out marker that highlights the block. Right click, that same menu will show up, and you can do a copy of the block. And then you can go, for instance, to the first one here, or this first one, last one here, right click and insert a copy of that block. Insert block before the current frame. If they were all identical black, you will not see any differences there. So that will be a good way to kind of extend the animation a few more frames long. We still have the bicycle there in the preview. Let me disable that for the time being. And so now we have the animation. We still have this block selected. If we wanted to add a few more, we could go again to the last frame, like here, and insert, right click there and insert the block before this current frame. So we essentially drag it on a little bit by adding another 10 or so frames, And that gives us an opportunity to see this darkness for another second or two, depending on how long we'll play it. And that means we can add something on top. So right now the animation is doing this implosion and everything kind of collapses, boom, and then we want to see that additional blast. So maybe another glow or something like that. A star should appear here. In fact, let's use the Nova tools for that. Or in the timeline we have the animated lens flares. Let's go to the filters in the timeline, and oh yeah, at the bottom here, lens flares. That's the animated collection, lens flares, and show the flare settings. And you have a lot of different choices there, and you can also customize this to make your own. But let's say we take one of the quiet ones, like this one here, and we can set it right here. So now the question is, where exactly do we need to set it? You can see where that last glow is. Let's put ours here to the side a little bit so we can see where that last glow is. This frame right here. This will show. Actually, we need to do that on this one here in the preview, so we can see it. Okay, that's close enough. Now, if it's too sensitive because you have too many frames here, you can actually zoom into that. There it is. Zoom in to see a bit more granularity on that. Or also you can grab the corner edge of that window and scroll through that and get to see a little bit more granularity that way. Okay, so now we see the frame where we have an idea of where to place our new highlight. Put that glow right there, smack dab in the middle, and keyframe that. But then we also want to keyframe the brightness. So the level, we could have it very bright here. That's ultimately what we want to do towards the end. So initially, you might go all the way, or it might just be there, because there's this one already, so it's not going to hurt. It's just going to overlap it if you want. But you could have it leveled down, keyframe to that value, and now let's find the animation. There it is. So it's gone. We want to make sure at that point that we don't see it, because for a brief second we need this to be totally dark, right? For a split second, just about here. Keyframe that, and now a little bit further. Let's zoom in some more here. Let's add some more detail on our animation. There you go. So now here, actually this keyframe is too late. We need to move it. You can actually drag these little handles there. That's really nice. That's a new feature. I think since version 8 or somewhere. You can drag it, put it here closer to where the darkness starts, and then after that have a kind of a glow come back at about this level here. Have it bring back this little thing. Keyframe that, and perhaps there, I don't know, it could go brighter or gradually stabilize at about this level there. So you can also change here the position of this, and it will allow you to see how quickly it kind of comes back. If you move it to the side here, there's more frames during which it builds up to that. If you bring it to the left, it will be closer to this one where it's totally at the other side, the opposite scale, the opposite value, and it will kind of suddenly come back there. Right, so there's a good way to play here a long time. This is the timeline here, so you can say which frames are going to be, where the keyframes are along that timeline. Right, so the animation looks like this. It goes dark, and you think it's over, but then no, look at that. There's a little glow coming back, and that's it. All right, so let's go render that. So we need to make sure it's actually here doesn't matter if we were adding something, because we already have a big animation going on here. It's going to be overwhelming it. We're not going to see anything here on top. We could though potentially. So if we wanted to make sure nothing gets rendered on top of the animation until the very end, until about here, we could go before that, make sure at the very beginning, in fact, that the level is 0, so that we don't accidentally add something. Or you know what, maybe you do want to add something, right? Maybe you want to have actually this additional glow coming from here too. So set that to the value you want, and here it's time to make it disappear, so we can have it this much, or still very bright all the way here. Let's go keyframe it here. This one here we may want to delete, so select the keyframe if you don't want it anymore, delete it, and so now you can see that we have the animation as before, and it boom, it explodes and it goes dark, and then shortly after that it comes back. Alright, so that's the animation. Let's go apply it, and this will now basically modify our imploding animation to add a little bit of a darkness and then back to a glow at the very end. And after that, that's when we want to put our animated spinning astronaut or the bicycle or both. We can do multiple compositing there, painting on it, or having the bicycle go around or something like that. That's the fun stuff where you can really put these different things together. So this one's an animation of 293 frames total. And we can see the count here as it's progressing in this animation. We have 200, another 100 to go. It's a little bit faster now because the speed of this render depends on how big that glow is, and when it's very little or very small, it's not going to take much time to render, so it suddenly speeds up and then it goes slower again at the end when we render it again. Alright, so we have this. Let's go get rid of this. And we have our two animated brushes. There's this one. We can enable the preview and we can paint it right there. Now we don't want to paint it over just this. We want to paint it across the entire animation. Right? So that's where we need to have, let's go and undo that. That's where we need to use the Alt key. And again, the step size, we might make it even smaller, make the bicycle smaller. Let's go and store and manage this copy so that we have the ability to make it a little bit smaller. Have a whole bunch of bicycles. Oh, actually, you know what? I'll do that not with the bicycle. I'll do that with the spinning astronaut. So we'll have a whole bunch of spinning astronauts that are flying up. But what I'll do is make sure that we have the brush, store and manage this copy. We want to make sure there is no blank frame at the very end. So show the film strip and scroll down to the bottom. I think this one has about 100 frames, and yeah, it looks like we can go beyond the last one. Here there's one frame. Let's go get rid of this one. So delete frame, and I will delete the last frame of this animator brush, and then at that point we have a clean animation. So we can now go and paint with that. First, let's set the step distance really small, something like this. Let's set the size to really small, something like that. And we can see him here now. So we're going to have this guy kind of fly from bottom to the top. Let's I'm going to use the shift key and the control key to zoom out with the right button. You can do that here too. There's a magnifying glass, there's the move tool. Simply click and drag. This hand here with the pointy finger, this is to grab the canvas and move it around and drag it around. So you don't click this and let go. What you click and drag, you do immediately click and drag. The moment you click on it, the cursor will jump to the middle. Notice here, if I click and drag, if I click and hold it, boom, the cursor is in the middle, and now you can start dragging this around while you still hold it. And then I'm going to, this one here is the magnifying, same thing, click and drag, and you can zoom in a little bit if you need to. It zooms relative to the center of the screen, so you might want to do that first, right? If you are centered or at 100%, something like this, you could first zoom out or in as needed, and then use the hand to move it over here. And now we have enough room to move our astronaut. Actually, I'm going to need a little bit more. We can move the astronaut from the bottom to the top. I'm going to use the Alt key, make sure the step is still good. Let's make it small, really small there, really slow, right? And so we have, well, maybe not that much. There you go. So we have the astronaut here. If I hold the Alt key, and I'm going to paint outside just to test it, you can see it's animating, right? So it's cycling because I have an animator brush and I'm painting over an animation. With the Alt key down, it's going to cycle through this. So I'm going to go to the first one here. And you know what? Perhaps we want the astronauts to only show up after the explosion. Right? Something like this. So, boom. Right around here we start with the astronaut coming up. Well, but then of course, soon enough we reach the end and we keep painting. So we also paint to the beginning. So, if we don't want that, we would need a different way. This one is going to keep cycling across the entire animation and come back to the first frame as you keep going. So but let's still do that and increase the size and then increase the step distance a little bit. Let's go to about 4 or 5. This is good to use these arrows for the fine tune, step by step, click by click. There you go. And so now we have the bigger dude going across here. We have one drifting on the other side. And then perhaps we have one going sideways. All right. And or perhaps we have them actually fly into it. So that's the thing really we need to do. Let's go get the animated the brush keyframer. And with the brush keyframe, what's really fun is that you can not only paint along a path, but you can, or render it along a path really, you can also change its size. So you could say, first of all, let's set the brush back to its original at about 100, 103, 100. Or you could just click on restore, that will restore all the dimensions, or reset, that will reset everything. So here we have the original size. Let's make sure we get this brush. There you go. So now we have the full size, and we will actually go to the beginning of the animation and have him go into being sucked into the this wormhole, or this vortex. So we'll have him here, keyframe that, and then go like this, and he's kind of trying to escape here, but gravity is pulling him in already. So let's go keyframe that, and then we have him go closer and also perhaps spin around. He's getting anxious here to really escape gravity, but there's no way to escape it. There you go. And then eventually we'll have him tumble down to 0 size here. So he goes into, and actually we need to get this done before it explodes, so just around here. There. So that's when he reaches the center. The angle keeps spinning a little bit more. The scale is down to nothing there. Right, and perhaps the opacity too. So we'll actually do one where it's still fully opaque at about this size. Keyframe that, and then just shortly after that, just around here, the opacity will disappear. The scale will go down a little bit smaller. The rotation continues, but also the opacity disappears. There. So keyframe that. So then that way we have an animation of our poor astronaut right here, going from the right, trying to escape it, and disappear. And we can do that, render it once, render it again, different paths. So let's do that. Let's do a render, and it's rendering now. Good to have that transparency mask on that sequence we rendered in Carrara. Again, it's too big to render or show it in real time. That's okay. It's going to show you not responding. Don't worry about that. It's still busily rendering, and then when it's done, it's done. And close this, and you can now see the animation. Now I'm gonna get my bicycle also. So let's do the bicycle one. Here's the bicycle, and this one is going to let's render that also in the keyframer. And in the brush keyframer, we have now the animation with our big astronaut, but on top of that, we're going to have the bicycle. And this bicycle is, I don't know where this bicycle is coming from. It's space debris, space junk, right? Let's go and let's see, what do we want to do? Let's kill the animation that we already have, the keyframe sequence, and create something new. Let's make it a little bit bigger at first. Let's see, rotate it upside down. In space there is no upside down, there's no up and down, so I guess we could have it one way or the other. Let's go to the first frame. Maybe we want to actually start with opacity totally off, right? So let's do that. Then around here we have opacity at max, and we drift a little bit more, and we also move drifting sideways and change the size like so. Keyframe that, and then we have, you know what, maybe we'll have the bicycle avoid collision with our astronaut. Or maybe we'll actually show some sort of a collision. So let's see if we can have that here, and then here we need to have the bicycle kind of push aside. And so here's this fun thing, you can do sort of an interaction, basically make it look like the bicycle is being tilted away, right, something like this. And there you go, it just always seems to be going away, then also scaled down a little bit. Now it's moving away. The astronaut bumped against it, and it's gonna drift away. There, scale it down farther away. Let's keep tumbling around like that, and as the astronaut turns back to the right, our bicycle is just disappearing here and keeps spinning around. And let's see here, and so this thing is kind of going away, but it's also being sucked in by the gravity force here, so eventually it's kind of leaching back, coming back here. Now we're starting to see the effect of gravity as it's being sucked in there too. So let's see if we can get the bicycle to actually get in there a little bit faster. Maybe each time we have another keyframe that we set at about the same interval here, we'll want that distance to increase. So it looks like it's actually accelerating into it. The thing though is it's also smaller, indicating it's farther away. Oh wait, we forgot the angle. We need to keep spinning there. The thing is we want to convey a little bit of a sense of dimension here. Scale it down. There you go. And this one's already a goner. Let's make it go here very small. Bicycle disappear, opacity 0, there. And it stays that way for the rest. Alright, so let's go. In fact, this one will give it a little bit more of a mechanical animation, so it's a linear, and maybe it's going to make sudden changes that way, sudden like mechanical change in direction. Let's go render that. So here's our bicycle, and keep an eye on the astronaut on the right side. There we go, we kind of collide with it. Boom, goes sideways and gets sucked in, everything disappears, and we have a new beginning. Alright, so you know, just wacky stuff, really having fun here with the animation, combining things. And let's see our final animation we've done here. Let's show it at 100% and play this puppy. Is it 60 or 30 frames a second? It's good. Let's get rid of our preview, and there we go. Thanks for watching.